And there we go. John, thank you for joining us on behalf of all that we've got John on the call. My name is Fabian. We've just gone through a rigorous change and update in the rules, and we are lucky documents that came from the WWR, the World Water Polo Referee Organization, and I've adjusted that slightly to suit Auckland water polo events and competitions specifically. So if you hear stuff that may not align with your local competition, then please contact your local organizer. But these are, as it is an Auckland water polo call, we have adjusted it for Auckland water polo events. In saying that, like I mentioned to you, John, I've only removed the VAR and I've removed the coaches challenge because we're not ready for that yet. But I will hand over to you, John, and you let me know.
Okay. All right, you're breaking up a bit. Have you handed over?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for your attendance after a few technical glitches, but here we are. This document was produced for World Aquatics and for World referees by the World Water Polo Referees Association Rules Committee. And it's the best summary so far of the changes to the rules. So if we can go to the next one, please. Okay, so there are some changes to the rules. Hopefully, we're not changing the rules again anytime soon. I think they've arrived at a good version of the rules. So, table of contents. All right, so this is the list of everything that's new. And as Fabian already said, at the bottom, we won't be covering video assist referee protocol, and we won't be covering the coaches challenge protocol because we're not equipped to that. I don't think anytime soon we're going to run out and spend 80,000 euros on a VAR system. So, anyways, let's go to the field of play. So the big adjustment, there's no change to the women's field of play. It's still 25 by 20, but the men's is now also 25 by 20. And that's goal line to goal line. In the following diagram, that just demonstrates that, proper setup of the pool. There is one mistake. It still shows that the flying substitution area minimum width is 1 meter when it is in fact half a meter. For teams and players, nothing has changed in the sense that a team shall consist of 7 players, one of whom shall be the goalkeeper and wear the goalkeeper's cap. So in order to start playing water polo, you need 7 players. You can have up to 14 eligible players, and that will vary within Auckland, I think even within New Zealand competition, based on the length of time of a game. So in a game lasting 5 minutes, with 5-minute quarters, do you really need to have 14 players because you struggle to play 13 as it is? However, in high-level competition, it is 2 goalkeepers and 12 field players. At the start of play, that is the first quarter, the beginning of the first quarter, the team must have 7 players, and one of those players must be a goalkeeper, right? As a bare minimum. You don't have 7, you don't play, or the game is not official. Once play has started, you can pull the goalkeeper and play with a 7th field player. And this then would also follow for the start of the second quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. And there's a nice picture following up. So here we have the white team, and they have decided, go back please. The white team has decided that they are going to put their goalkeeper on the bench, and they're going to play with 7 field players. This is allowed. There's no foul being committed here. Next. If during a game there are no remaining field players, then the goalkeeper or the substitute goalkeeper can play as a field player. They would need to change caps. And if the team has no remaining eligible goalkeepers, a field player may play as a goalkeeper and will have to put on a red cap. If a team has enough money that they can afford a set of caps 1 to 14 that are all goalkeeper caps, then there's no need to change the number. Otherwise, a player coming in from a field player to a goalkeeper will have to exchange a cap, and change of the number will have to be communicated to the referee and then the table. Substitutions. So a substitute may enter the field of play from the exclusion re-entry area as soon as the outgoing player has visibly risen to the surface of the water within the re-entry area. So this is one player coming in with another player coming out. It is no longer mandatory that the players in the re-entry area have to touch hands above the water. This has been eliminated, so don't worry about that anymore. If the player leaves the field of play through the exclusion re-entry area or the flying substitution area without being replaced by anyone, that player can now re-enter the field of play from the same exclusion re-entry area or the flying substitution area. So before this rule change, the significant one is the flying substitution area, a player leaving and then coming in back into the field of play would be an improper entry. And anyways, all those fouls don't exist anymore in this situation. The player can go out and come back in if there's nobody waiting for them. So let's move to timeout. So if the attacking team's coach wants to call a timeout in the time between the awarding of a penalty throw and the taking of the throw, this is now permitted, which makes sense. I think this is a good change. And in this situation, both teams are permitted to make substitutions during the timeout, and then play restarts on the taking of the penalty throw. You can go to the diagram. So even if a timeout was requested before the taking of a corner throw, play will restart on or behind the half distance line. So they've eliminated that the corner throw stands at the calling of a timeout. So corner throws awarded, coach of the attacking team calls for timeout. The ball will go into play on or behind the half distance line as it would after any normal timeout. Method of scoring. So a goal can be scored by any one of the following alternative ways. So at the start or any restart of the game, at least 2 players of either team, but not the defending goalkeeper, intentionally play or touch the ball. This is normal. Goal can be scored directly on a penalty throw. If a player throws the ball from a free throw into the player's own goal, it will count against the team. And from an immediate shot from a goal throw or a corner throw. All right. These haven't changed. From an immediate shot on a free throw taken by a player outside 6 meters, except restarting after a goal, a timeout, a neutral throw, or after the referee takes the ball out of the pool for an injury, replacement of a cap, or any other reason, or when the ball leaves the side of the field of play. At that point, as the rules were before the changes, the player putting the ball in the play must play it to themselves, and then they can shoot. All right. No faking is permitted, so that hasn't changed. That's cool. Also, by a player who visibly puts the ball into play from a corner throw or outside 6 meters from a goal throw, after the swim up at the commencement of a period, after a timeout or a goal, after an injury, to replace a cap, after the referee calls for the ball or calls a neutral throw, when the ball leaves the side of the field of play, taking of a free throw, or any other delay in the game. So even if the foul was committed inside 6 meters, an attacker can score a goal by a shot after putting the ball into play outside 6 meters. So if the ball is returned to the pool to a player outside 6 meters, that player can put the ball into play and then shoot and score. This hasn't changed. Go next. Yes, Ghislaine.
Yes, you hear me, John?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. Nice to see you. Just a quick question about the goal after the restart after a goal, because to me there is a discrepancy in the rules between the small A and the small E, because in small E it's a player who visibly put the balls into play after a timeout or a goal. And in a A, it's 2 players must they touch the ball before the shoot. So it's a little bit of discrepancy, because compared after a timeout, the player can put the ball in play and shoot, and it's a goal, and it's not allowed after a goal. So to me, it's better. It's a common sense to allow the goal if after a goal the player put the ball in play and shoot and score. But I asked already the question.
Yes, yeah. I think that probably should be revoked at this time. As long as the ball is put into play, one player can score. And A is just saying that the way that it's been forever, the way it was before you could shoot and score from outside, you had to have at least 2 players intentionally play or touch the ball.
Slightly confusing, but they remain. Is what
yeah. What if a player in E does any of those things, it's a goal. That's the bottom line. Now this is a change, and the example. If we go to the example. Where a defender is excluded at the center forward position without the ball. Ball's outside. So after the referee completes the signalizing sequence for the exclusion foul, the attacker who's holding the ball outside 6 meters is able to score on an immediate shot or putting the ball into play by taking the free throw. All right, this action is allowed. The goal is valid. So as referees, if that call gets made at the 2 meter position, the referee who is signalizing will have to do his thing, but the other referee is going to have to put the arm up to indicate that the player is eligible to shoot. Should you remember? I recommend you do. So next, and again, this is a change. A player puts the ball into play inside 6 meters. So the foul has occurred inside 6 meters, and then the player swims outside 6 meters, and that can be after an injury, replacement of a cap. So after any stoppage, the ball can be put into play, and as long as the swimmer's head is outside 6 meters before shooting, the goal will be good. So again, as referees, we're going to have to really pay attention to ball placement and where things are in the game. And then they have a diagram or a slide showing that the free throw is awarded with the ball inside 6 meters. An attacker visibly puts the ball into play inside the 6 meters, then swims outside 6 meters before shooting and scoring a goal. This action is allowed and the goal is valid. And the referee should help the situation. So once the player comes outside 6 meters, the referee puts the arm up to indicate that A shot from outside 6 meters is now permitted. Okay, so possession time. So for women's matches, initial possession will remain at 30 seconds. And for men's matches, initial possession is 25 seconds. The possession time will go to 30 or 25, whatever the case may be. The initial possession will be the maximum when the defending team takes possession of the ball. So whether that's a turnover by foul or a steal, when the defending team comes into possession of the ball, the clock will reset to either 30 or 25, depending on if it's men's or women's water polo. Second, when the ball is put into play at a neutral throw or following the taking of a penalty throw with a change of possession. If in the last minute of the game, a penalty throw is awarded to a team and the coach elects to maintain the possession of the ball, they will get the maximum allowable possession. Any secondary possession will be 15 seconds for both women's and men's matches. So the new possession of the attacking team following a shot after rebounding on a goal post, a player or the goalkeeper, restarting by the award of an exclusion, foul against a defending player, unless there is more than 15 seconds on the possession, in which case the time shall continue and not be reset. When the ball is put into play by a corner throw or following the taking of a penalty throw without a change of possession. When the ball leaves the field of play through a sideline as a result of a deliberate action by a defender or the blocking of a shot by the defending goalkeeper. And then we have a diagram following on that. So after a pass, the ball leaves the field of play through the sideline due to a deliberate action by a defender. The play restarts by a free throw in favor of the attacking team, and the possession time is reset to 15 seconds. And then the next example, after a shot, the ball leaves the field of play through the sideline due to the blocking of the defending goalkeeper, and the play restarts with a free throw in favor of the attacking team, and the possession is reset to 15 seconds. Wasting time. So the shortest rule that we used to have in water polo, do waste time, followed by a 3-paragraph explanation, has now been replaced. So wasting time is deleted and it's replaced with the rule that codifies as an ordinary foul the behavior of a team which deliberately gives up possession of the ball. So when a team or when a player dumps the ball down into the corner, this is why we blow the whistle and stop the game and award a free throw to the opposing team. In explanation of this, for wasting time, so the following actions, usually made before the expiration of the 15, 25, 30 seconds of the ball position time, these are still not allowed. So a player who throws the ball away and refuses to play. A player who leaves the ball not in possession of both teams and swims away, refusing to. That would be a player swimming away from a free throw situation, and then there's nobody else coming to put the ball into play. Or a player who intentionally hits the swimming pool ceiling with the ball. Intentionally hits it. That's different than the ball striking an overhead obstruction. So all the previous situations are examples of deliberately giving up possession of the ball. This is followed by a diagram where the attacker throws the ball away and refuses to play just before the expiration of the possession time. The action is not allowed. Play restarts by a free throw in favor of the defending team, and the possession time is reset to 25 for men or 30 seconds for women. Alternatively, in the next example, the attacker leaves the ball not in possession of both teams and swims away. I think refusing to play is a poor choice of words. Basically, they've given up on the attack. They've surrendered the ball by dropping it, and now they're going back and playing defense. So the action's not allowed, and the play will restart with a free throw in favor of the defending team, and possession being reset to 25 for men or 30 for women. Now, the following actions are now allowed. When the goalkeeper or any other attacking player is the only player of the team in that team's half of the field, and the ball is passed from the other half to that player. So as an example, you have a team that may be up by 1 goal, and we're in the last minute of the game, and they're on attack and they shoot, and they're awarded a corner throw because the ball goes off the goalie. The player putting the ball into play from that corner throw deep in the attacking end can throw the ball all the way back to their own goalkeeper. This is now permitted. An attacking player swims with the ball from the offensive half over the half line and back into their defensive half. And an attacker holding the ball remains in the same position of the field of play without making any movement or showing intention to attack. And then we have examples of this. So the first one is the ball being passed back to the goalkeeper. The action is allowed. No foul is committed. The next example, the white player with the ball swims back into their own half of the field of play. The action is allowed. No foul has been committed. And the final example, the player holding the ball remains in the same position on the field of play without making any movement or showing intention to attack. All right, it's up to the defending team to go and try and get the ball at this stage. Okay, let's move on to re-entries after exclusion. So before a substitute enters, according to 6.9.3, the excluded player must immediately leave the field of play at any place without leaving the water and move to the exclusion re-entry area, and then rise to the surface of the water with the head nearest to the player's own goal line without interfering with the play. Excluded player and substitute do not need to touch hands anymore above the water, as we said earlier. For a player leaving the water, so we're on to 6.9.4. A player leaving the water during play, other than following the entry of a substitute or sitting or standing on the steps or the side of the pool during play, will be punished under 6.9.13 for misconduct, except in the case of accident, injury, illness, or with the permission of a referee. So somebody who just randomly gets out of the pool and they're not hurt or bleeding or sick, they're gone for misconduct. This hasn't changed. The same sanction, exclusion from the remainder of the game, is applied to a player, excluded or not, leaving the water during play. Moving on, going underwater. Going underwater is punishable as an ordinary foul when there is physical contact between opposing players and one of them goes underwater and takes a positional advantage. That would normally apply to the attacking player. The attacking player goes under the defender and comes up in a position that's more advantageous than where they started. It's an exclusion foul if the defending player does it and impedes or hinders the positioning of the attacking player. Moving on to improper and illegal players. An illegal player, as an eighth player or a player who has already been excluded from the remainder of the game and they're back participating in play, is still punished as a penalty foul. However, the penalty throw will be taken as 7-on-7 after removing the offending player from the field of play, including by an immediate substitution if needed. Going to the first example, during play, an 8th white team player enters the field of play. The play restarts with the blue team taking a penalty throw and 7-on-7 after removing the 8th player from the field of play. In the next example, a white team player with 3 personal fouls enters the field of play. Play will restart with the blue team taking a penalty throw and the team's at full strength, 7-on-7, after removing the player with the 3 personal fouls from the field of play. And if need be, an immediate substitution. The next slide has an awful lot of rules there. But it does say that an improper player is an even excluded player who re-enters or a substitute who enters the field of play without wearing a cap or not following rules and that whole line of rules, and that's doing wrong things coming back into the pool. The improper player receives only a personal foul, and that is a penalty foul. So it is no longer a misconduct against the player. The improper entry or re-entry of a player is punished as a penalty foul, no matter if the team of the improper player was in possession of the ball or not. The play restarts by the taking of a penalty throw with 7-on-7 players in the field. And for the next slide, if this occurs as a re-entry from an exclusion with the period of the exclusion not expired, the offending player must leave the field of play before the taking of the penalty throw. The player or substitute shall be permitted to re-enter at the expiration of the period of the exclusion, so they have to serve out the remaining time, or when the excluded player's team has retaken possession of the ball, or a free throw, a goal throw, or a penalty throw is awarded in favor of his or her team, except in the circumstances of violent action, in which case the improper player or substitute shall be permitted to re-enter only at the expiration of the period of exclusion, which is 4 minutes. So for the first example, during play, a white team substitute enters the field of play through the flying substitution area without touching hands with the exiting player. So in the flying sub area, it is still necessary to high five. Play restarts with the blue team taking a penalty throw and 7-on-7. The next example, during play, a white team player leaves the field of play through the end line and immediately re-enters the field of play through the same end line without going to the re-entry area. Play restarts with the blue team taking a penalty throw and the team 7-on-7. For the third example, during play, an excluded white team player leaves the field of play and his or her substitute re-enters at the expiration of 15 seconds before the excluded player reached the exclusion re-entry area. The play restarts with the blue team taking a penalty throw and the team's at full strength. And the secretary being told off for holding up the white flag too early. In the fourth example, the excluded white team player re-enters before 15 seconds exclusion time has expired. So players coming back into the pool too early, they have to leave the field of play before the taking of the penalty throw by the blue team. So in this situation, they're out at the taking of the throw. Taking of free throws. It's been clarified that when there is a counterattack, a player does not have to give up the advantage to go to the ball and take the free throw. The second closest player to the ball can take the throw as long as there is no undue delay. This is nothing new. In the first example, ordinary foul is called in favor of the blue team, who now go on to attack. The blue player closest to the ball goes into the counterattack, and the next closest player from the blue team swims up to the ball and puts the ball into play. All right? This is not wasting time. For the second example, ordinary foul is called in favor of the blue team, and the goalkeeper, who is the third blue player closest to the ball, is going to come and take the free throw. This is not allowed. It must be the second closest player to the ball, not the third. So the ball would revert back to the possession of the white team. Taking of a penalty throw. If at the taking of a penalty throw, the goalkeeper moves forward before the referee blows the whistle, and the player takes the shot and the goal is not scored, the goalkeeper shall be excluded and a penalty throw shall be retaken. The throw gets retaken. A defending player can go into the goal and try and stop the ball without any of the goalkeeper's privileges. So for the example, goalkeeper moves forward before the referee blows the whistle and the player takes the shot. The goal is not scored. This is not permitted. The goalkeeper has an exclusion recorded against them, must get out of the field of play, and the penalty throw is retaken. For a penalty throw at the end of a period, if at precisely the same time as the referee awards a penalty throw, the timekeeper whistles for the end of a period, all players except the player taking the throw and the defending goalkeeper shall leave the field of play, entering the respective flying substitution areas before the penalty throw is taken. So they don't have to get out of the bench. They do have to be out of the field of play. And then the example demonstrates this. So white team taking the penalty throw, the thrower and the goalkeeper in the pool. The blue players are all on their side of half, and the white players and the goalkeeper are all on their side of half. Personal fouls, yellow and red cards. We're not going to do this in Auckland. This doesn't say that it won't happen at NZ water polo and internationally. I think it definitely will happen. So upon receiving a third personal foul, a player is excluded from the remainder of the game with substitution after the earliest occurrence and must sit in a specific area designated near the bench if available. So we're not going to worry about that here. Yellow and red cards. Clarified the signalization of yellow and red cards for players, coaches, team officials, and teams. The yellow card is shown pointing with one arm parallel to the sideline towards the bench of the team sanctioned as one or more players persist in playing in an unsporting manner or engage in simulation, or persist in repeated fouls other than aggressive player misconduct, or protest referees or officials' decisions without the use of unacceptable language. So you can yellow card the team. That means that the next player of that team who engages in, as an example, repeated fouls or persistent foul play, or somebody who complains about the referee, that player will then be shown the red card, the following one. If it's the coach, yellow card is shown pointing with one arm in the direction of the head coach. They are now officially warned.
Ivan, you had a question?
What happens if you want to yellow card both teams? Would you point to both teams at the swap halves, or would you just give it to the whole pool?
No, in a situation like that, I'd pull the ball. So take the ball out of the pool and take out your yellow card. And as it said, you're pointing to the one team, yellow card, and then point to the other team, yellow card. So yeah, you now have won the pool, but you've made it an event. You've made it a there's no question. And the next time somebody plays up, they're gone. They're getting red carded. All right. It's quite that's a very emphatic action. They can't say they weren't warned. Where am I? Red card. A red card is shown pointing with one arm in the direction of the head coach or other team official or player, if you can identify them, to indicate the person who must leave the pool area immediately, or as an additional signal in case of exclusion of a player from the remainder of the game. So that would be for misconduct or violent action. You're also showing a red card to show that the player cannot remain on the bench and that they must leave. Accident, injury, and illness. So if we have accident, injury, or illness other than bleeding, at the referee's discretion, the game may briefly be suspended and ordering the immediate substitution of the injured player. So we're no longer doing a 3-minute injury time. It's stop the game. If somebody, it looks like they're hurt, stop the game, get the ball out, treat it just as you would bleeding, immediate substitution. The substitute can enter from any place. The player who's in trouble can go, return the ball to the pool, and play continues. That player, if they've left, they are permitted to come back and play again once they're well enough to do so. All right. Leaving for injury is no longer a player not being permitted to play any further. They can come back just as somebody who's been bleeding. And then the next, for bleeding, if a player is bleeding, the referee shall immediately order the player out of the water with an immediate entry of a substitute, and the game continues without interruption. When the bleeding stopped, the player is permitted to be a substitute in the ordinary course of the game. For other clarifications, so simultaneous awards of corner and goal throws. When simultaneous awards are made by both referees, and one is for a goal throw and the other is for a corner throw, the corner throw shall be the call that is awarded, and we won't worry about VAR. The protocol for penalty shootouts. So the game ends. The game needs a result. So there's a 3-minute break. That 3 minutes is to allow the referee on the bench side of the pool to do a coin toss with the captains to determine who's going to shoot first. The game needs to continue after the 3 minutes. If there's any delay by one of the teams, then the coach gets carded for that. So the 5 shooters from each team must remain in the field of play in their respective halves, but outside the 6-meter line and not hanging onto the lane ropes or sitting on them. Substitute goalkeepers can be on the bench, or if they're going to substitute during the penalty shootout, one goalie can go over to the opposite side of the pool, outside of the field of play, in front of the official table, and outside of 6 meters. After the 3-minute break, the shootout will start immediately. If the 2 teams are ready before the 3 minutes expire, then stop the clock and restart. Keep things going. During the penalty shootout, if the goalkeeper is excluded for failing to take up the correct position, the goalkeeper is excluded. A player from the 5 players participating in the shootout can take the position without goalkeeper privileges. And following the taking of the penalty throw, the goalkeeper or a substitute shall be permitted to re-enter unless it's their third personal foul. So before this change, a goalie during a shootout who gets excluded for not being in the correct position is out for misconduct. Now it's just an ordinary exclusion, and they can re-enter after the shot that they've been excluded for has taken place. Obviously, if it's misconduct in terms of the goalie taunting the attacking player or swearing, then misconduct rules still apply, and the teams will be permitted to swap the goalie. If it happened before a shot, it would be after the shot or before the next throw. If at the taking of a penalty throw, the goalkeeper moves forward before the referee blows the whistle and the player takes the shot and the goal is not scored, the goalkeeper shall be excluded and the penalty throw shall be retaken. And a player from the 5 players participating following the taking of the throw, the goalkeeper or substitute shall be permitted to re-enter. If the goalkeeper is excluded from the remainder of the game, for example, protesting referees' decisions during a penalty shootout, player from the 5 players participating in the shootout may take the position of the goalkeeper but without privileges. Following the taking of the penalty throw, the excluded goalkeeper may be substituted by the substitute goalkeeper or an alternative goalkeeper if the substitute goalkeeper is not entitled or is unable to participate, and that player shall wear the goalkeeper's cap. And that is it. Questions? Good.
It's a lot to take in. Obviously, we're gonna put this up on the Auckland Water Polo website. This recording will be available to everybody who's tuned in and everybody who's not tuned in, and I'll make sure I'll share that on the website. Yes, Sinead?
Just wondering, my daughter is a goalie. So when you're talking about a penalty shot, does that mean like the coming out thing and being excluded for her? Does that mean that, like, from when does that start? When the arm goes up?
When the referee blows the whistle to take the throw.
Okay.
So the referee blows the whistle and drops the arm.
Yeah.
That's when the goalie can
come out.
That's when the
forward.
goalie can come out of the goal.
Okay.
All right.
But when they're setting up.
When you're setting up and the referee's in position and they're making sure that the shooters
on their line.
Anywhere between the 6 and the 5 meter, and that the goalkeeper is in the goal.
Yeah. Great.
All right.
And that's not changed though, right? That's the way.
No, that's normal. That's the way it was. What has changed is that in a penalty shootout, if the goalkeeper came out of the goal early and they had been warned, the exclusion was a misconduct. So they were gone for the remainder of the game and somebody else had to come in and play goalie after that shot.
Okay.
Whereas now it's just an ordinary exclusion. They're only dismissed, if you will, if they act up. Yep. Or it's their third major foul.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome.
No problems. If there are no further questions for John, then this will be up on our website. It'll be up on social media to make sure that you know where it is on our website. And please continue the dialogue. Make sure you share this with other referees. And if there are any further questions arising, so please ask. Yes, go ahead, Kevin.
So if during the taking of the penalty, the goalkeeper gets excluded, with the player that goes in to take their place, what if they use 2 arms, will they also be excluded, the penalty retaken and another player come in, or they just have to take the penalty again?
No, they would have a penalty recorded against them.
Okay.
All right. And then the throw would be retaken. Now, in talking to colleagues both in Europe and Australia who have cycled through these rules already, the level of intensity is a lot. There's they've said that they really need to be paying attention. Now, this is water polo played at probably a higher level than we're going to experience, certainly in the Auckland High School League. But yeah, just as referees, you need to, there's a lot to take in now with the location of the ball and where the player is in relation to the 6 meter line. When they move out, they stand up, they shoot. So you can't be gobsmacked standing there watching what's going on. You're going to have to react and either award the goal if it was done properly, or call the contra foul if it wasn't. And you need to be on top of that. So it's going to be an interesting betting in time, but I think it's a good set of rules, and the feedback I've heard is positive.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, John, very much for your expertise in leading us through this. Thank you, everybody else, for who has tuned in. And we will be in touch very soon with the whereabouts of where you can find this recording back. And we'll be in touch very, very shortly, guys. We'll hope to see you on the pool side very soon.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Nighty night.